In this episode, we talk about ensuring transparency and efficiency in the entrance examination procedure. We also talk about a Navy craft losing control and hitting a ferry off the Mumbai coast, causing 13 deaths. But first, we talk about One Nation, One Election. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. On 17th December, the government took the first step towards the implementation of simultaneous elections to Lok Sabha and state assemblies, referred to as One Nation, One Election. Simultaneous elections have been one of BJP's long pending promises. On the 78th Independence Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had once again reiterated the importance of One Nation, One Election.
क्योंकि हर 3 महीने 6 महीने कहीं न कहीं चुनाव चल रहा है। कोई भी योजना जाहिर करोगे आप तो मीडिया में देखेंगे, चुनाव आया तो फलाना हो गया, चुनाव आया तो फलाना हो गया। हर काम को चुनाव के रंग से रंग दिया गया है और इसलिए देश में व्यापक चर्चा हुई है। सभी राजनीतिक दलों ने अपने विचार रखे हैं। एक कमेटी ने बहुत बढ़िया अपना रिपोर्ट तैयार किया है। वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन के लिए देश को आगे आना होगा।
Back in September 2023, the Law Ministry established a high-level committee led by former President Ramnath Kovind. This committee was tasked with proposing ways to conduct simultaneous elections at the national, state, and local levels. The committee gave its recommendations, and now the process is being taken forward. Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal introduced two bills in the Lok Sabha, a constitution amendment bill to sync the terms of Lok Sabha and state assemblies, and a consequential bill to amend the relevant acts for union territories and the National Capital Territory of Delhi to enable simultaneous polls there as well.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. With your permission, I beg to move for leave to introduce the Constitution 129th Amendment Bill 2024, further to amend the Constitution of India. ये आइटम नंबर 18 में है और आइटम नंबर 19 में जैसे आपने कहा, Honorable Speaker sir, with your permission, I wish to move for leave to introduce the Union Territories Laws Amendment Bill 2024, further to amend the Government of Union Territories Act 1963, the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Act 1991, and the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019. ये मैं आपकी अनुमति से आपसे लीव मांग रहा हूँ. Thank you, sir.
However, the proposition of One Nation, One Election and the consequential amendments required in order for its implementation faced certain opposition in the Lok Sabha.
Sir, this bill violates the right to democratic self-government, which is part of Article 1419. And if a legislative assembly is dissolved, sir, and midterm elections are conducted, the tenure of that assembly will not be for 5 years, sir. This in itself is a violation of parliamentary democracy, which envisages a tenured legislature. Sir, constitutional scheme makes it clear that once elections are conducted, the House should have a right to function for next 5 years. This is a violation of basic structure. That such a provision is being done for administrative convenience, not for constitutional purpose. Sir, the principle of federalism means that states are not mere appendages of the center. States are not dependent on the union for their existence. This is the violation of federalism, sir. Sir, in conclusion, Parliament is not competent to make any law that violates fundamental rights or the basis of the Constitution, sir.
That was Asaduddin Owaisi from the AIMIM opposing One Nation, One Election in the Lok Sabha. To learn about the recent developments that have taken place regarding the implementation of simultaneous elections and the reactions it has received in the Lok Sabha, we have the Indian Express's Damini Nath joining us. Damini, can you explain to us the basic principle behind One Nation, One Election?
So the basic principle for One Nation, One Election is that all elections in the country should be held at the same time. It doesn't mean that all elections across all states would be on the same day. I mean, it would still be over some phases. But in one constituency, it means that the Lok Sabha, State Assembly, and local body, whether it's the Panchayat or Municipal Corporation election, should be held on the same day.
Right. And what were the recommendations of the high-level committee that was led by former President Ramnath Kovind regarding One Nation, One Election?
So the Law Ministry appointed the Ramnath Kovind Committee last year in September with the sole purpose of giving recommendations as to how One Nation, One Election can be implemented. The committee wasn't asked to look into whether it should be done or not, but it was just asked to give recommendations, including specific amendments to the Constitution and other laws to enable the same. So the major recommendations of the committee were constitutional amendments on how to sync the term of the Lok Sabha and state assemblies together, how to empower the Election Commission of India to carry out these elections, because as you know, the local body elections are carried out by the state election commissions, which have a separate jurisdiction. So the Kovind Committee gave recommendations with detailed proposed amendments to several constitution articles, which again would have impact on other laws like the Representation of Peoples Act.
The debate over the implementation of One Nation, One Election has finally begun in the Lok Sabha, with Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal proposing certain amendments. So can you tell us what were the major takeaways from it?
So the two main things that we can see from the bills are that firstly, the amendments that were proposed by the Law Minister follow exactly the same language that the Kovind Committee report recommended. So there hasn't been much change at all, in fact, in the Constitution Amendment and the bill for UTs. And the second major takeaway is that while the Kovind Committee recommended a second set of amendments or a bill to sync the local body elections also along with Lok Sabha and state assemblies, at this point the government has not gone for that. So they have only brought two bills, one which will sync the Lok Sabha and state assemblies, and a consequential bill which will make the same changes for UT assemblies, including Delhi and J&K. So it's important to note that as of now, the government hasn't taken a step forward when it comes to the local body elections.
Right, and now coming to the consequential amendments that will be required in the Constitution for implementing One Nation, One Election. Can you tell us about that?
So there are two bills that were introduced this week into the Lok Sabha by the Law Minister. The first bill is the Constitution 129th Amendment Bill, which amends 3 articles of the Constitution and adds one new article, which should be 82A. So 82A is the one which introduces simultaneous elections into the Constitution. The first clause of this article says that the President will issue a notification on the first sitting of the Lok Sabha after a general election. Subsequently, any state assembly elected after that appointed date would have its term end along with the Lok Sabha. So that would mean that if, say, a Lok Sabha election is held in 2029, and on the first day of the sitting of that Lok Sabha, the President will notify the appointed date, which will be that first date of the Lok Sabha. From then onwards, till the end of that 5-year term of the Lok Sabha, any assembly which is elected in that duration will end along with the Lok Sabha. So that means that if an assembly is elected, 4 years down the line, it will only have a term for 1 year. So this is Article 82A, which is the first one that the committee has recommended. Then the committee has also recommended amendments in 3 articles, which basically provide for the scenario, of what will happen if, say, the Lok Sabha or a state assembly is dissolved sooner than its full term.
And Damini, what happens in a case where a government falls before its term ends?
So the amendments also make changes to 3 articles, including Article 83, which is basically the one that is about the duration of the Houses of Parliament. For the Lok Sabha, it adds a new clause which says that if the Lok Sabha is dissolved before the end of its full term, the election held for the next Lok Sabha will be only for the unexpired term. So that means it will not be for a full 5-year period. And a midterm election will have to be held. This midterm election will only be for the unexpired term of the preceding house. So if a government falls 2 years into its full 5-year term, the election will be held for only the remainder of the 3 years.
And Damini, how was the proposition for simultaneous elections and the consequential amendments received in the Lok Sabha? We understand that it faced some amount of opposition.
So when the bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha, almost all the opposition parties objected to it. Their main concern was that this goes against the basic structure of the constitution, because according to them, the Lok Sabha and the state assemblies are at an equal footing. The state assemblies are not lower than the Lok Sabha in status. So their objection was that the state assembly's term cannot be made subject to the term of the Lok Sabha. Manish Tiwari of the Congress started when the bill was introduced in Lok Sabha by saying that it was against the basic structure of the constitution. Then MPs from the DMK, TMC and Samajwadi Party all opposed the bill.
How is it possible under our constitutional scheme that the tenures of the state legislatures can be made subject to the tenure of the national legislature? That is completely an antithesis of the constitutional scheme. There is absolutely no way under the Indian constitutional scheme where the states are separate constituents and equal constituents, the term of the state legislatures can be made subject to the term of the national legislature. And my final
And that
point,
was
Mr.
Congress's
Speaker,
Manish
sir,
Tiwari opposing One Nation, One Election.
Of course, the TDP, which is an ally of the BJP, gave its support to the bill. That being said, the bill was finally introduced after voting, where 269 MPs voted in favor and 189 against.
I rise today on behalf of the Telugu Desam Party to express our unwavering support for the NDA's One Nation and One Election bill.
And we just heard Chandrasekhar S. Pemasani saying that the TDP fully supports One Nation, One Election. Along with the TDP, Shiv Sena led by Eknath Shinde was also seen supporting simultaneous elections. So Damini, how do we see this going forward, and when can we expect One Nation, One Election to be implemented if the proposed amendments take place?
So, as of now, as soon as the bill was introduced, several MPs from the opposition and the ruling party, including Home Minister Amit Shah, they said that the bill should go to a joint parliamentary committee for further consultation. So, as of now, the JPC hasn't been formed, but it is expected to be formed soon. The bill will then go through the JPC process and then be brought back to the House. So, the entire process is going to take some time.
माननीय सदस्य बालू साहब ने कहा कि इसको जेपीसी को दे देना चाहिए। जब ये संविधान सुधार का विधेयक, संवैधानिक संशोधन जब कैबिनेट में चर्चा में आया, तब प्रधानमंत्री जी ने स्वयं मंशा व्यक्त करी थी कि इसको जेपीसी को देना चाहिए। इस पर विस्तृत चर्चा सभी स्तर पर होनी चाहिए। इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि इसमें सदन का ज्यादा समय जाया करे बगैर, अगर मंत्री जी कहते हैं कि इसको जेपीसी को सौंपने के लिए वो तैयार है, तो जेपीसी में होगी और के रिपोर्ट के आधार पर कैबिनेट इसको पारित करेगी, तब भी फिर से चर्चा होनी है। तो मैं मानता हूं कि माननीय मंत्री जी अगर जेपीसी में रखने की इच्छा व्यक्त करते हैं, तो यहीं पर एक चीज समाप्त हो जाएगी।
Eventually, if and when the bill is passed, it will only come into effect, like I said, on the appointed date, which is the first sitting of the House after a general election. Since the general election of this year is already passed and the first sitting of that is already over, the nearest date would be 2029, when the Lok Sabha elections are scheduled to be held. So it basically means that if the next Lok Sabha completes its 5-year term, then the earliest the One Nation, One Election can be held is 2034.
Next, we talk about the procedures for entrance examinations. A 7-member high-level committee of experts was set up by the Education Ministry in June this year after the National Testing Agency came under fire following the NEET UG paper leak. The committee, chaired by former ISRO chief K. Radhakrishnan, has proposed a framework similar to the election process for holding important national entrance tests like the NEET, CUET, and UGC NET in order to ensure transparency and efficiency. It submitted its recommendations to the Ministry of Education in October, and these were made public on Tuesday. To learn more about the committee, its recommendations, and how the entrance exam procedure can be made more transparent, we have the Indian Express's Abhinaya Harigovind joining us. Abhinaya, can you tell us about the high-level committee that was created and who all were a part of it?
So back in June, after the NEET UG paper leak and the cancellation of the UGC NET exam, the Ministry of Education had constituted a 7-member high-level committee, which was headed by Dr. K. Radhakrishnan, who's former chairman of ISRO. And the other members of the committee included Dr. Randeep Guleria, who's former director of AIIMS, and Govind Jaiswal, who's a joint secretary in the Ministry of Education, along with Professor B.J. Rao, who is Vice Chancellor of the Central University of Hyderabad.
Right. And what were the recommendations that were given by this committee?
So the committee had submitted its report to the Ministry of Education in October. It has made a range of recommendations across different aspects of examination reforms. So it has made a total of 101 recommendations. So one of the things that it has dealt with is the structure of the National Testing Agency, which came under fire right after the NEET UG paper leak, because both NEET UG and UGC NET are conducted by the National Testing Agency, or the NTA. Other recommendations include ways to ensure secure testing, which is, security with regard to transport of question papers, with regard to conducting the test itself, with regard to to ensuring authenticity of the candidates, fixing responsibility of the officers, and ensuring coordination with the state and district level authorities.
Now, diving into these recommendations, how can the entrance test procedure be made more transparent according to the committee?
So there are a bunch of recommendations. One among them is a long term, something that the committee has recommended in the long term is a migration to computer adaptive testing, which is, it has said that, that computer based tests are now the preferred mode of examination, and that these are a sure way forward, and that the infrastructure for computer based testing should be developed and amped up, and computer adaptive testing should be one of the ways in which secure testing can be ensured. Other aspects that the panel has recommended include restructuring of the NTA. It has said that the NTA should now primarily conduct entrance examinations and other examinations that the NTA was conducting, which included exams for recruitments to central universities. Those examinations, it can be considered enhancing the scope of the NTA to conduct these additional recruitment exams can be considered once the capacity of the NTA is augmented. In addition to that, it has also recommended that the NTA be staffed with domain-specific expertise. So yeah, those are the recommendations for the NTA, and to conduct computer adaptive testing or computer-based testing.
Now, the committee has recommended that the examinations should be held in a more computerized manner. However, currently, the examinations are being held in the classic pen and paper format. So, in this given format, how can transparency and efficiency be ensured?
So the NTA conducts both computer-based exams as well as pen and paper tests. So where the panel has recommended computer adaptive testing in the long run for security of pen and paper tests in the meantime, because computer-based testing will involve augmenting the infrastructure for computer-based testing. It will involve creating more centers with access to computers. So in the meantime, it has recommended security measures for pen and paper tests as well. For this, it has suggested that 3 sets of question papers be prepared. It has also suggested that these question papers be encrypted and sent to confidential servers at the testing center, and then they be printed at the testing center themselves using high-speed printers, and then the candidates can take these exams in pen and paper mode. This is meant to ensure secure testing even in the case of pen and paper tests. Something else that they have recommended is that the question paper itself be delivered to the candidate via computer, and the candidate then answer the test using an OMR sheet. So for pen and paper tests, these are the security measures that the panel has recommended. Along with this, for the process of testing itself, it is recommended that that tests be conducted in multiple sessions and also in multiple stages.
And Abhinaya, how can the state and the center come together to implement this, and how will this be similar to the elections as per the committee?
So the panel recommended that the NTA collaborate with authorities at both the state and the district level. And for this, it has recommended something along the lines of the general elections. It specifically says that, that the involvement of the state and district level authorities be in the way that elections are conducted. And for this, it has suggested that coordination committees should be set up both at the district level and at the state level. And these committees will comprise officials of the NTA itself. It will comprise of officials of the Intelligence Bureau, of the National Informatics Center, and the police. and the district level committees will also then will help identify the test centers. The district level committees are also meant to ensure the safe transportation of the question papers with the help of security from the police and the paramilitary forces. So this is a little different from what the NTA was doing earlier, because the NTA earlier was conducting exams in testing centers that it identified in government-run schools and colleges, or in institutes that have been recognized by the AICTE, or in private centers where service providers were conducting the exam. So with the authorities, with the committee at the district level being tasked with identifying these testing centers, the aim is to also reduce the involvement of private service providers who would have otherwise been roped in to help conduct these tests.
Right. And along with these state level and district level coordination committees, what else can be implemented in order to make this entire examination process more like the election process of India?
Something else that the state and district level authorities are expected to help with is the sealing of testing centers. The panel is suggesting that each testing center be sealed before the examination in the presence of the district administration and the police, and that they be guarded till the examination, and then they be de-sealed again for the examination, again in the presence of the administration and the NTA. So, much like polling booth operations, much like the elections, it has also said that there should be an NTA official who will be the presiding officer for each testing center. That officer will then be in charge of the overall operations of that testing center and ensuring that everything happens as per the standard operating procedure at that center.
Right. And Abhinaya, can you tell us about the Digi exam system that has been advised by the committee?
Yeah, so the committee has suggested something called Digi exam, which will be something like Digi Yatra. And this is supposed to authenticate the identity of the candidate. And according to the panel, this will be to authenticate the identity of the candidates at each stage, which is at the stage of application, that is applying for the entrance exam, at the stage of testing, admission, and while studying in that particular institution. So it is said that this authentication should happen with the help of primary data identifying the candidate that will be recorded at the application stage, and then biometrics that will be recorded when the candidate is appearing for the test at the testing center. And these details will then be used to authenticate the candidate's identity at each stage, which is also at the stage of testing, admission, and study.
And what does Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan have to say about this?
So on the NTA, the Education Minister said on Tuesday that the NTA will focus now on conducting entrance examinations, and that it will not be conducting other examinations like examinations for recruitment to services. So that was one thing that he said about the NTA. Something else that he said was about NEET UG, which is that he was talking about whether NEET UG would be a pen and paper test or a computer-based test. And on this, he said that the ministry, which is the Ministry of Health, is the administrative ministry for the NEET exam. So he said that it would now be up to the administrative ministry to decide whether an exam will be a pen and paper one or a computer based one. And based on this, the NTA will then act as the service provider and conduct the test.
And in the end, we talk about an incident from Mumbai. 13 persons, including 1 naval personnel and 2 staffers on a naval speedboat, lost their lives after the Navy craft lost control and hit a ferry off the Mumbai coast. The ferry boat was carrying nearly 110 passengers from Gateway of India to Elephanta Island. According to the Indian Navy, the Navy craft was undergoing engine trials and lost control. After this, it collided with the passenger ferry Neel Kamal of Karanja, Mumbai. So far, 99 survivors have been rescued, the statement said, with 4 naval helicopters, 11 naval craft, 1 Coast Guard boat and 3 Marine Police boats pressed into action. The incident took place around 4 p.m. and the statement added that search and rescue efforts were immediately launched by the Navy in coordination with the Indian Coast Guard and the Mumbai Marine Police. Prime Minister Narendra Modi extended his condolences and announced an ex gratia of rupees 2 lakh from the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund for the next of kin of those deceased in the ferryboat mishap in Mumbai. The statement mentioned that those injured in the accident would be given rupees 50,000 each. Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis announced financial assistance of rupees 5 lakh each to the kin of the deceased. He also said that the Navy and the state government officials will probe the mishap. Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also offered condolences to the bereaved families and said that extensive search and rescue efforts are going on by the Indian Navy and Coast Guard, deploying multiple assets to locate the missing people. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.